Hello Year 11 and welcome to our fourth video here for further graphs. So far we've looked at reciprocal functions, we've looked at square root functions, and we have looked at absolute value functions. Today we're going to look at the addition of ordinates, and in many ways this is probably a bit fiddlier perhaps, maybe a bit less precise in a lot of ways, but probably not necessarily all that hard. I should explain what I mean by ordinates, and really they're just our y values, the value of the function. Because we use these words so frequently, I keep saying y values and the value of the function. We can talk about the ordinate as well. Okay, that's the y coordinate, if you like. So, when we are adding two functions together by the addition of the ordinates, I find the ordinate of one function and the ordinate of the other function and add them together. That doesn't seem very complicated. So, we can subtract them as well. A few basic sort of rules. When I'm adding them together, if one of my functions has an ordinate of 0, then the sum of the two functions will simply be the value or the ordinate of the second function, okay, because it's 0 plus something. Where they intersect, right, the sum of them will be double the ordinate where they intersect. And if they are equal but opposite, right, then the sum of those two functions will be 0 at that point. As they approach infinity, yeah, maybe that can get complicated. Now, here we have two functions. I have a very simple y equals x, that's the blue line here, and I also have y equals 1 over x, a rectangular hyperbola, and again the simplest sort of a form. I have both of those graphs drawn on the same axes, and again on the same axes I'm going to sketch the sum of those. So y equals x plus 1 over x. I want to add those two functions together. Well, the way that I'm going to do this, right, is I'm going to find the value of my hyperbola. Okay, at x equals a half, right, it's this big. I don't need to calculate it. You could even measure this with a ruler or a scrap of paper or something like that. A pair of dividers would work fairly nicely, I suppose. But you can see I've drawn all these little black lines that indicate the lengths of those lines indicate the ordinate of my reciprocal of my, well, it is a reciprocal function of the hyperbola there, y equals 1 over x. Okay, so I've done those. Some of them are positive, some of them are negative. What I do then is I want to add them together. So I take those values, right, those little black lines, and I've just stuck them on top of the blue line, right? So I've added the values together. And then I'm just going to draw a curve through the ends of those points. Okay, that's going to come along down here, join the dots, and up we go. So there we go. That's what that looks like. I'll rub out those little black lines, and that is the sum of those two functions. Okay, so just at various points along the way, we could see here where they intersect, they're both equal to 1. So the sum of those would be 2. So actually my little line there should be a smidgen lower, shouldn't it? Anyway, that should pass through 2 because it's 1 plus 1. Now, when the blue line is equal to 0, my red line there, my hyperbola is undefined, so the sum of those two functions will remain undefined. Okay, where I have -1 and -1, adding those I get -2, that's fine, and so on. Now, you can see the red line, as I move towards infinity, becomes very small, so this green line will approach the blue line, right, that function y equals x, as an asymptote. Right? It will get very close to it because I will be adding very little onto it as that increases. Similarly here on the left. Okay, now we're going to subtract them. Okay, I want x minus 1 over x. Again, I'm going to put in these little black lines to show the value of 1 over x. I want to subtract those this time. So instead of sticking them on top of the blue line, I'm going to stick them underneath. But because these are negative values, and if I subtract a negative, it's kind of like adding. So in fact, they will, of sorts, sit on top of the line. because I'm subtracting a negative, right, like this. So I've taken the values, the ordinates there, for my hyperbola and subtracted them from my linear function. Right? And again, we just join up the dots and we get curves like this. Rightio? Take those black lines away, and that is a graph of y equals x minus 1 over x. Okay. You can see they're both equal here, 1 and 1, so I pass through 0 because 1 minus 1 is 0, and negative 1 minus negative 1 is negative 1 plus 1 is 0. So that passes through 0 there. They're the main critical points there. We have these asymptotes again. Okay, that's it for addition of ordinates. In our next exercise, we're going to multiply two functions together, and we don't do it exactly the same way, so you'll have to wait and see the video, see how that works. But if you have any questions about the addition of ordinates, please let me know so that we can sort those out. Okay, thanks very much. See you next time.